Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Michael LaRosa.
MSNBC's Joy Reid is not pleased with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's plans to take on government spending. Let's watch.
2 weeks ago, Donald Trump announced the selection of the world's richest billionaire, Elon Musk, and near billionaire Vivek Ramaswamy to create the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, in his new government next year. Now, before I go any further, I need to point out to you that even Donald Trump can't just invent a department of the federal government. The Constitution clearly states that only Congress has the power to establish departments and agencies. But, you know, Constitution, schmonstitution. He can do what he wants, right? And what Trump is actually doing, besides helping Musk promote one of his favorite cryptocurrencies, coincidentally called Dogecoin, which he promotes on his ex-Twitter and which is up 190% over the past month, also totally coincidentally, I'm sure, is that he's using the powers of the presidency to get around the inconvenient constitutional checks and balances in order to personally decide who wins and who loses in America.
So
I have no idea what she's talking about.
I really don't get this criticism that it's not a constitutional department. Yes, it's an informal advising group. No one is claiming that he is actually setting up a new branch of the government. That would be that would be self-defeating because we're actually trying to make the government more efficient and smaller.
Yeah.
And it's something that I was happy to see some Democrats get on board with. Jared Moskowitz has said he will join the DOGE caucus because he thinks the Department of Homeland Security is too large and too bloated. A figure even as to the left or progressive as Representative Ro Khanna has talked about areas where you could work with Elon on this. Bernie Sanders the other day said he agreed with Elon's criticism of the Defense Department, which has failed 7 audits in a row, and that we should all be able to come together, and we're going to disagree about what the details are, but that we want our government to be streamlined and as small as possible, and there can be some cutting, and that's not controversial. So I don't know why Joy is treating it like it is.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's more probably about hatred for Elon Musk or people who supported Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And you know, like I don't have a ton of like emotion towards either of those two or this. I mean, this is nothing new in government. Streamlining government is like a couple of decades old. People have been trying to do it for a really long time. And I'm rooting for success, and I'm a Democrat, and I want to win elections. But also, I'm willing to like try new things as well. I'm not just going to oppose things just because it's a Republican who's opposing or supporting it. Bill Clinton and Al Gore spearheaded a streamlining of government initiative back in '93, I think. So, you know, people have been trying to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse for a long time. Totally fine with me. I would say this, though, because everybody likes to sort of attack the bureaucracy and pile on. I mean, it is hard for me to understand. I have no problem with Elon Musk or Vivek Ramaswamy, but hard to understand how they are somehow, you know, experts in how the government functions and operates, having never worked in the government, and by their only interaction has just been by being a customer of the government. Your customer experience is very different than experience working in government. And so I'm not exactly sure what makes them think that they are the ones to make these recommendations, but fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is, I think, to where possible, it's not always possible, but make government run a little bit more like a business. Elon, for instance, you know, famously buys
But
Twitter.
should it? Should government be run like a business?
It should, in some ways, be. I mean, shouldn't be profit-seeking in the same way, but the accountability mechanisms in a business where because you want the firm to be profitable, you get rid of people who are not efficient or bad employees is not the same as it is in the federal government. Even in terms of the federal government as a employer, right? There are massive structural protections for employees.
Oh, sure, but
including unions.
That's like changes in HR
level.
policy. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's not really going to
Well, I think one of the number one things that would reduce the federal workforce, the most likely thing they can actually do, is just require everyone to come back into work. They still have remote work on a massive scale because of the pandemic, much more massive than many private employers. I think that would reduce government spending. I also think, I mean, look at Elon Musk bought Twitter, reduced the workforce by 80%, and some people don't like it anymore, think it's changed in some way, but it's still functional on the same basic level. That did not have a massive change in like the core service. Now you can disagree with the moderation of the policies, but like it still operates with 80% fewer people. That suggests to me that in many cases of like liberal governance, even in a corporate sphere, there is some duplication or unnecessary jobs maybe in a DEI context, which is very, controversial thing to say, but you're a more moderate Democrat.
I'm all about merit-based hiring in any field where expertise is required. But that's the point, right? A lot of these jobs are expertise-based. So one's view from the outside might think of it as waste. The view that keeps the government running might think of it as expertise. Everybody hates government until they don't get their potholes filled, or the snow machine isn't coming to pick up their snow. We love local government. People love getting their Medicaid check or their Medicare check and their Social Security check.
They do, and unfortunately, those are the major government expenditures.
That's right.
I always argue with people on
right.
this when they say people are not correct when they say we can balance the budget just by canceling out like the foreign aid or that.
That's right.
2/3 of it is that entitlement spending on your fellow Americans.
Foreign aid is a drop in the bucket, and the cutting we're going to have to get to either offset tariffs with tax cuts and to offset an extension, more tax cuts or in tax reform, whether it's to the public or corporations. Regardless, we have to offset at some point. It's going to drive up the deficits even more.
No, you're right there.
But the cutting, the fat, the bloat is in the entitlements. And whether you're a Republican or Democrat, I'm guessing you don't want to give up that check.
I would say that something ought to be done about that. It's not going to be popular, you're right, and people will complain when it comes to them, but we still got to do something about it.
And actually, that's a really great opportunity for Trump, given that he is limited to one term. Yeah. If there was something he wanted to champion, if he was serious about governing, a lame duck president going into a new presidency who is willing to touch the third rail, it's a big deal. If he's willing to do it, but he might not be, and Democrats will make him eat shit for it too.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't be, taking away from people things that they were promised of systems they paid into.
My mother and I just had this discussion. Yeah. But at some point, the same things that are promised for the generation now, it's not going to be there for their children and their grandchildren.
No, I complain about this all the time. This transfer of wealth going on right now to older Americans living longer and longer past the working age, while young people struggle to buy houses.
Part of the national sacrifice might be having to, slow the rate of growth for some of these entitlement programs. I don't want to. Nobody wants to. But do we want to, keep them around?
Right. And do we want to? Saddle our young people to this tremendous obligation. I very much agree with that, but it's a hard thing to sell people on.
It takes political guts, and you won't find many because both parties are governed by one thing: self-interest.
Desire to stay in power. Mm-hmm. Well, Michael LaRosa, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Free Media. I really appreciate it. If you like what you're seeing, please support the work of the hardworking journalists at Reason Magazine, which produce this show. You can find out all about our annual webathon giving, which is going on right now at Reason.com. And I'll be back with more episodes of Free Media next week. Take care.